we even start the review, if you missed out on me making key points on the Taz promo over still feuding with Darby Allin, Ricky Starks not getting a title shot, or Tully Blanchard being a masked assailant attacking the Young Bucks after the main event, then big whoop. I don't like missing out on key points of the show, but I just want to add that into raw detail before I even continue. Anything else? Enjoy the video. Hello, everybody, and here's the sustain of, my depression. We have, of course, another episode of Dynamite here, still in Jacksonville. Same humid weather, even though it's October. The main selling point of the show, the major focus, was an 8-man tournament to see who will be facing the world champion after Full Gear on pay-per-view at November 7th. And thanks for just dialing in just a couple months, and the major build going into the main event is practically John Moxley versus Eddie Kingston in that I Quit match. And the major selling point of how he got a deserving title shot was because he backhanded him after he defended his title against, I think, the Butcher. No, I don't think it was against the Butcher. Against Lance Archer. And then he comes around declaring that he is deserving of a title shot, all because he declared not submitting in his match when he was choked out off a Bulldog choke. So that was the major selling point, that he didn't truly submit. So that's how he earned himself a title shot. How this wasn't declared by the board, I don't know. It's so cheapening of a story, and it would make sense if he had his hand on the rope, then got knocked out, or something more understanding than that, but it's just so bitchy. And it comes around making sure that all of his family looks more illegitimate than the next. Because the only thing worse of an irrelevant faction is a jobber part, because Butcher and Blade has rarely won a match, and the only reason they were in the four-way tag match is because of a literal chance. They were there because of literal chance. Joey Janela was not in the first round of the tournament because he suffered uh getting in contact with a person that was suffering with COVID. So it was his tag team partner Sonny Kiss going against Kenny Omega in the first round. If you guys weren't aware over the show, even though Tony Schiavone totally addressed it. We opened with a pretty fun match, but it should have had the exact length of the Kenny Omega and Sonny Kiss match because it was short. But I know they were trying to build up legitimacy over Jungle Boy having these close encounters with heavyweights. And it was fine. It was off of F4, I think he calls it, from the top. We had vicious clothesline, belly to belly, Hurricane Aranas. We had a tope. The Wardlow was looking mad legit. We had a reversal powerbomb, a sunset flip, a Hurricane Rana for a near fall, an F10 from the freaking top. It was okay in the forgettable sense over displaying the strength of Wardlow, and I knew he was going to come with the victory. But this is how predictable the first round was, in my opinion. We also were having Kenny Omega. Why in the hell was the ring announcer going over his accomplishments from Wrestling Observer like it really does, like it really matters to actually build legitimacy in a world in at least a world-renowned wrestler? I understand they're like a indie fed with a WWE but with like half of WWE's budget, but by God, it feels so weak. Like, oh, I was top 50 wrestler in PWI, or oh my God, I won 17 G1 climaxes. And you just see the guy fapping, a fat dude that obviously watches NXT, fapping to this exemplary dick sucking of. I understand that's supposed to build up Kenny Omega of his own identity, or else we'll just be hearing his rip off Mega Man music. And it's. God. They had women with brooms literally doing what they were made for. I mean, doing Kenny Omega's cleaner thing. So it's obvious that he's trying to get back to his roots. And as soon as he came in, as soon as the bell rang, V trigger and a one winged angel. Because of course we're not going to take Sunny Kiss seriously because he's a replacement, and it's Sunny Kiss. He did handed his respects and then left. The match was short to the point, and it came with Kenny Omega at least having a focus to get to the next round. I understand it's a major focus that he's going to face off against Hangman in the finals, or at least tell the story of this personal feud, and that's literally a major focus because I don't think they're gonna push Wardlow to the world title unless MJF is gonna be a major point of it. But he's focusing on the Inner Circle storyline. But in my opinion, I don't care. I know this tournament's to tell a specific story and try to get two guys up to the main event point of the main event point because they were supposed to do that last year, and they're gonna just shove that in your throat in a non-sexual way. Next up, we of course had the most flippy match possible in the first round of this tournament. It will be Penta L0M against Phoenix. It's El Penta. It's just Pentagon. It's Pentagon Jr. If you guys don't care, I don't know what's with the name change now. Eddie Kingston was on commentary for this match, and we had a springboard corkscrew crossbody, a pop up into a power bomb. A pop up flip into a power bomb. It was so dumb. These guys were going all out over the selling point of these guys. These are brothers. They're not trying to hurt each other. It, Ray Phoenix keep asking for more. He got a shining wizard to the head. Uh, he baited out Pentagon trying to go for what was going for the package pile driver. He ended up hitting a Canadian destroyer. Then he obviously no-selled. Then these guys, like in the middle of exchange, keep kicking, no sell, no sell, no sell. Obviously, some luchador shit. The match was, I'll admit it was fun. It had some fun spots. Not much I'll remember unless somebody put this in a highlight reel of like top moves of the month or some shit like that. Other than that, the match was fun. I think it told something basic. It ended up a surprise. It ended up. I think there was also a Spanish fly, but that didn't get a 3 count. It was also a surprise roll up into a Canadian destroyer. Ray Phoenix heads to the next round to face off against Kenny Omega. There was also a promo involving the Dark Order before we even headed off to our fourth first round match of the night with Hangman Page against Colt Cabana. With John Silver trying hard not to laugh at his own voice. Reynolds and saying that we'll pick up all the gold tonight when we win our specific matches, with Brody Lee getting the TNT title back. Why would you entrust just an outsider of the Dark Order that Brody Lee is just okay with and been getting pissed off at? Like, the storytelling there is obviously like you be getting the TNT title or something, but I don't know why he's not in the tournament, even though he pinned your top babyface. I don't know why isn't Brody Lee in the tournament. There's like no major factors into the tournament that's going to make it to the finals other than probably Wardlow. There's no constant favorites to keep you in suspense who's going to make it to the first round. If they could have like ignored the factor that Hangman and Kenny's in the tournament, then we could have had more suspense. Like Shawn Spears, Lance Archer, who just lost against John Moxley. Like, major focus on heavyweights, or at least some guys that should, like, I shouldn't be seeing Sonny Kiss. Nonetheless, Joey Janela there. Ray Phoenix and Pentagon was a fun match, but other than that, these guys were not suspected to even touch the finals. And we all know that. So it ended up with Reynolds and Silver trying to exclaim to Colt Cabana that they're going to win all the gold tonight. You do your job. Supporting the Dark Order, bloody, bloody, blah. It ends up with their entrance. Colt Cabana comes out, then Hangman. We had our match. An uncorked shooting star press. Standing shooting star press. Springboard clothesline. That running leg dumb comedic roll-up spot pin that he does. A shocking power bomb for a near fall. The match was getting basic as it can get. It ends off a fake from the buckshot lariat. connects with it the second attempt because he faked it. Colt Cabana loses. No other storytelling ensues. Hangman just proceeds to the next round while Colt Cabana gets assisted by Evil Uno and everybody else that were in the tent that were supporting Colt Cabana. Evil Uno was just in the entranceway. He didn't even want to find a seat or something. We had a dinner debonair that had Chris Jericho and MJF discuss the matters of probably joining the Dark Order. But as soon as that happened, I just want to say this was freaking dumb. We had Steve-O from Jackass with Darby Allin. If that isn't dumb enough, he came around putting himself in a body bag and he went down a ramp. And he says, "I'm gonna win that in TNT title." Like if he can take dumb shit pain like that, imagine what he can do to Cody. Even though Cody beat him like what twice, but yeah, Darby Allin is is the number one contender for the TNT title. Whoever walks out next week as champion. Come around putting himself in a body bag and went down a skateboard ramp with Steve-O just holding his phone like, "Oh, dude, these wrestlers are retarded." But that was pretty fun. I like the camera work. I like the cinematography of Darby Allin segments doing crazy crap, and obviously with the simplistic messages, whoever he's in a feud with, it feels so cool. It feels like like nuance, like what they could have done on like MLW and stuff like that. So that's what makes Darby Allin have a specific character from anybody else. And his matches are always crazy, so it's gonna be cool. We know that probably Cassidy's probably gonna walk out as CNT champion, in my opinion. But that's besides the point. That's just a prediction. But that was fun. We also had Cody being interviewed over the stipulation of his match with Orange Cassidy by some chick, and he's excited. Just come to work today, see the men fight for pretty platinum. It was so generic of a babyface promo, even though he brought a slight edge when he faced off against Brody Lee. So it's super inconsistent of the character arcs that these wrestlers even go through and they even change. The only people that I thought changed over the span of this was technically Kenny and Hangman. I mean the Young Bucks because of the Hangman shit. But other than that, they still do the same moveset. And it's like, how else are they gonna get defined by tell a story? They weren't even being that ruthless. They were still doing their generic stuff. I'll go more into it in our main event because our main event was a fatal four-way match, tag team match to see who will face off against FTR for the tag team titles. And if you didn't know that the Young Bucks were in this match, don't you dare say Private Party. Don't you dare say John Silver and Alex Reynolds. Don't you? I'll. So we had the steak dinner and they said, "Let's get it raw." You know what? Let's get it super raw. It was funny centerpiece, and they just kept making cheap jabs at each other that they were, not paying attention to. And then we had a random musical number, like completely immediately targeting the carniness of all this BS. Sure, it was entertaining in the standpoint that, oh my god, it's MJF and Chris Jericho are literally doing a singing number while negotiating if he can join Jericho's faction. Rockettes, MJF kept getting the server's name wrong. It was getting funny at the standpoint, but if it kept just being more disrespectful to each other, written off that, or some sabotages involving the inner circle to a scripted negotiation, it could have been funny in that aspect. I was completely caught off guard with the little Rockettes and a freaking singing number. It was completely out of the wazoo. All I can say is it was interesting. Would I go back and watch it? Hell no. There's been better stuff that I've seen out of Chris Jericho and MJF. This was just completely out of nowhere, and it made me not take these guys as seriously as possible. But it was entertaining nonetheless. I'll give it that. But completely out of what was supposedly a surprising thing of MJF joins the Inner Circle, and yet they'll have a town hall meeting next week to see if from the Inner Circle to see if MJF is capable of joining the Inner Circle. Other than that, I can care less. King against Britt Baker DMD in action. She didn't have a promo, sadly. It ends with her little face with gloves in her hand, face lock. We had some drop kicks, vertical suplex. It was just Baker dominating until she went into the chokehold. Reba takes off the glove. She sloppily had the glove in her mouth. I didn't understand, in her hand. It's like I understand that she had it in another person's mouth. Pause, but it was just weird. And they're just continuing to do squash matches. And it's like, if you want, just make her do those promos again when she kept disrespecting everybody. And there's capacity now. There's at least There's at least a couple, like a few fans. Sure, it's not a lot, but like disrespect them. Do something with her to like tease her up to the top scene, especially with her winning record. She's not teasing to the factor that since for a long time I've been dominating the women's division and I still haven't even got a taste to the women's world title. Like, do something like that. Make her feel like she's a major part. She literally been getting interview segments to herself. Uh, still doing the chart. Like, she has capability to gain heat. Why? Why keep her still doing these ridiculous squash matches? And even if you do, you have her losing to like Penelope Ford or Hikaru Shida. Like, that's not going to build legitimacy to your only woman that can actually get heat from the audience, have crowd control, actually have decent promos, and ain't that bad in the ring. I don't know what's wrong with that. I don't know what's wrong with her. In the standpoint that you've been wasting women like that for such a long time, even though she has the capability of being a pretty good heel, especially for your depleting women's division. Where the hell is Awesome Kong? Where's the Nightmare Collective? Who asked that? So, not only are we having TNT title in a lumberjack match next week, we of course have to continue the final parts of the first round and a town hall meeting for the inner circle next week. So at least there's a hype factor on the standpoint that we're gonna drag the segment of probably MJF doing some scummy shit to Chris Jericho. That's the most I'm gonna say from it. Uh, about most of the show, it was at least one tag team match, and it was a number one contenders match, so it was important. It wasn't a rank up involving Jurassic Express just going like over 30 matches and still lose for a title shot. Every match was at least solidified importance. We had at least one important segment. We had a basic squash match. It was fine. I can at least say for the first time in a while that I thought every match was consumable in a point. I don't care about the Colt Cabana and Hangman match. It was too long. The Pentagon match was fine, and Omega's match was quick. That was understandable. The opener was a bit dragged off. I can say that with a straight face. And our main event was, of course, what you expected with the Young Bucks and Private Party and Alex Reynolds and John Silver. I don't care about the Butcher and Blade. The only thing they teased up to a standpoint is probably they were going to lose because QT Marshall was revealed that Allie returned back to the Bunny. It was her valet character before they made her part of the Nightmare family, getting in a love-hate relationship tag with Brandy Rhodes for a time being. And the only time you saw that was when they tagged in that female tag tournament. And the only teaser we had around there was probably there would be new women in the roster. Or a new championship to at least support the women's division. Like a knockout women's titles before Impact starts bringing those back. And the only thing that happened was Diamante that still doesn't have a contract, but Evilise has a contract. Nothing wrong with Evilise. I think she's a well done wrestler. But by God, man, it's just make a tournament have importance. At least what we have right now is a championship tournament, a world title tournament after pay per view, like full gear. And here's our main event match. We had Private Party, Young Bucks, and Butcher and Blade, and Alex Reynolds and John Silver that I didn't even know have numbers. Reynolds is number 3, Silver is number 4. I did not know that. So, our match was fine on the standpoint that it had a whole lot of shit in. Super kick, counter off super kick. Roundhouse, of course, one of the Young Bucks doing like their roundhouse kick reversal forearm bullshit, 1-on-2 comeback special. Uh, Before we had that, we of course had a vignette with Sammy Guevara's personal feud. Obviously, trying to build him up as a legitimate young guy, top star with Matt Hardy, and it's like it's gonna be some kind of deletion, inner circle deletion match. I don't know. All I know it's gonna be cinematic or some shit like that to make sure Matt Hardy doesn't kill himself. I didn't talk about this before because there was a legitimate vignette last week involving Sammy Guevara going over. It was me who busted your leg, even though Chris Jericho was holding the bat. It was me. I'll make sure that you are retired for good. Matt Hardy, it's like I wish this was more personal or made more sense because I thought we were teasing to the standpoint of Jericho feuding with Matt Hardy since he aligned with the Elite to face the Inner Circle back at that Stadium Stampede match. So why feud with Sammy Guevara? Even though the last match you had literally nearly killed you, or at least made your brain dead? Huh. Whatever, man. They brawled later on in the program. While we had that, we had like the funnest thing was the exchange with the combo moves off Reynolds and Silver. I thought that was fun, and I got off an amazing German suplex for a bridge, off some counters, and uppercut, bloody, bloody, blah, and then it went into a suplex, and it was broken up, obviously. Meltzer driver, but it was broke up by a pin. Some kind of back-breaking suplex, but it then ended off a break of the pinfall as well. Enziguri, it looks like there was a size up with the Young Bucks in Private Party, but it went into a super kick by the Private Party. It ends off a surprise roll up after it looked like Cassidy got Matt Jackson out the way until the surprise roll up pin happened. Plus, FTR was on commentary. They barely added much into the commentary already, how bad it was. And, yeah, Young Bucks predictably win. Obviously, for the bigger pay per view of the year. So, Young Bucks will face off against FTR in a tag team match next week. Next week we'll have our TNT title main event with a lumberjack match. The show was as plain as you can get. All I can admit is that at least the matches were important on the standpoint of at least telling future stories. We finally get our Young Bucks and FTR match that at least some people that are fans of subscribers of World Culture were excited to are excited to see come pay per view, and our predictable tournament. I mean, I can admit that I like the Pentagon and I'm sorry, El Zoro. Is that what I'm supposed to call him now? The Phoenix and Penta's match was fun. Kenny Omega's all hype, big dick energy intro just to win like a few seconds of a match against Sunny Kiss. Thank God it didn't last as long as it did. And he comes around having 20-minute matches with Miro and and Kip Sabian and Jericho and Hager. Like, come on. And you only last a few seconds with Kenny Omega. Like, how sad is that? How much you got the value that much? Wardlow was at least treated decently as a big guy. I thought that the tournament matches were playing and there was only two good ones to watch. I'm not saying that everything had to be 2-minute work rate. You have to tell a story. So it did that much. Other than that, I thought this was a 5 out of 10 show. Didn't do much to move my attention, but there was at least some decent stuff packed in it to make it consumable. And we only had one tag team match. I respect that out of AEW, and especially over the decent build they have with a tournament and literally their stuff that they had for months on end. It's at least entertaining. But if you guys like Dynamite, comment down below. I'd like to hear your opinion. Thanks for watching the video. And if you're that generous, if you're that good of a person, you would subscribe to my struggling channel. But help my channel grow. Try to move up to 30. Only 5 more subs to go, or more, But that's your choice. I'm holding a gun. But other than that, average show. But that's it for me. Thanks for watching.